Hello and welcome to Did You Know Gaming Extra. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at interesting facts and trivia about licensed games, but more specifically, licensed games based on anime and manga. But before we get into the trivia, with countless gaming accounts being hacked every month and people falling victim to credit card fraud, online security is a real concern. But not with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN encrypts your internet connection, protecting you from hackers trying to steal your info. ExpressVPN masks your IP address and lets the mask show any location you want, granting access to content that's restricted in your region. We've used ExpressVPN to access YouTube videos restricted in our country for research and can attest to its utility. This mask also grants access to geo-restricted servers and lets you download games only available in certain regions like Japan. ExpressVPN connects with a single click and never logs your activity. It's the fastest VPN we've tried, and it's even rated #1 VPN by TechRadar. There's an app for all devices, even your router, which can protect every device on your network. ExpressVPN is less than $7 a month and comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Take back your internet privacy today and find out how to get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by clicking the link in the description or going to expressvpn.com/DYKG. That's expressvpn.com/DYKG for 3 months free with a 1-year package. Visit the link in the description to learn more, and thanks for ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Anime and gaming seem to go practically hand in hand. The animated stylings of anime appear to translate well from clean hand-drawn artwork to the crisp 2D sprites of video games. Many of the stories featured in video games have also been influenced by Japanese culture, and since Japan is the home of anime and manga, the two mediums often have overlapping tropes.
It's like one of my Japanese animes.
Both mediums also became popular in the West around the same time, which is no doubt due to their similarities and ties to Japanese culture. We're starting off with our dive into anime games with the popular 90s and 2000s series Yu-Gi-Oh! This franchise had over a dozen games on just the Game Boy Advance alone, so we'll just jump right into the middle of the system's offerings with a game whose name is almost comically long: Yu-Gi-Oh! 7 Trials to Glory World Championship Tournament 2005. In the game's Shadow World, there is an area where a duelist can be found hiding inside a cardboard box. If the player talks to them, they'll say, "I don't know why I'm revealing this, but I'm a secret spy. I was hired by an organization which shall remain nameless in order to study this Shadow World." It's believed to be a reference to Solid Snake from Konami's Metal Gear series. Not only does the character hide in a box while doing espionage like Snake and work for a secret organization, but many Yu-Gi-Oh! Games, 7 Trials to Glory included, were made by Konami, strengthening this connection. Moving on to an incredibly well-respected manga and anime series which has also seen its fair share of video games, let's talk about Lupin the Third. Although most Lupin games never leave Japan, a few of the titles have traveled beyond the Isles. One example of this is Lupin the Third, Lupin is Dead, Zenigata is in Love, which also saw release in Europe. However, a very limited release in Europe, so limited in fact that it was actually only available in a single European country. In February 2008, an entire year after the game's Japan release, the game found its way to Italy courtesy of Italian publisher 505 Games. Another Lupin game, Lupin the Third Treasure of the Sorcerer King, had a much more expansive release, but again not in Europe. The only European country the game was officially released in was once again Italy via 505 Games. Another well-respected and highly beloved anime and manga series is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which has seen several video game adaptations. When Capcom was working on an arcade fighting game based on the franchise, the team wanted to include the character of Midler as a playable character. At the time, however, the character's full appearance had never been shown officially. The character appears in the 1993 JoJo RPG on the Super Famicom as a stewardess, though not using an official design, and only 2 panels in the manga show the character from the waist down. This fighting game was intended to be a faithful adaptation of the original source material, or at least as close as possible. Thus, the development team decided to forego the JoJo RPG design and asked Hirohiko Araki, the manga's original author, to redesign her specifically for the game, turning her into something akin to a belly dancer with her face covered up. After the game's release, Midler would appear in the official JoJo A Go-Go art book, suggesting that the redesigned appearance had become part of the JoJo canon. While we're on the subject of fighting games, J-Star's Victory Versus is a crossover title featuring franchises tied to the Weekly Shonen Jump manga. The game features some very prominent anime and manga series such as Naruto, One Piece, Fist of the North Star, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and Dragon Ball. And as you might expect, it features characters and locations from these franchises, some of which have some fairly sneaky Easter eggs. For example, if the player goes to the Planet Namek stage and goes to the bottom of the lake, they can find the 4-star Dragon Ball underwater. This is likely a reference to a part of the Namek arc in Dragon Ball Z, where in one chapter, Vegeta throws the 4-star Dragon Ball into the water for safekeeping after wiping out everyone at a Namekian village. Speaking of Dragon Ball, the franchise may have had a large impact on a certain Japanese video game company. While Sonic would eventually take over as Sega's golden boy, it was Alex Kidd that Sega used as their unofficial mascot through the 80s. Miracle World was critically acclaimed upon release, earning high praise for its tight platforming and visual likeness that gave Sega fans a Super Mario-like experience outside of Nintendo. However, despite the long-running suspicions that Alex Kidd had been deliberately positioned to rival the world's most famous plumber, theories persisted that Sega hadn't initially set out to make a Mario clone at all. Some speculate that Alex Kidd was in fact a Dragon Ball tie-in that had to be hastily reworked due to licensing conflicts. Miracle World designer Kotaro Hayashida would go on to confirm this theory to John Szczepaniak in February of 2018. By Hayashida's own admission, Alex's primary weapon had originally been the Nyoibo, a mystical staff used by Dragon Ball's Son Goku, to whom Alex Kidd bears an uncanny resemblance, a boy with monkey-like features wearing an orange gi and blue boots. The resemblance doesn't stop there. Players will find a rice ball in the end of each stage which Alex Kidd must eat before progressing, and each loading screen features a sprite of him happily munching down between stages. When quizzed on this detail in 2002, Hayashida couldn't place where Alex's love of onigiri came from, but given that there are countless scenes of Goku scoffing rice balls in a similar manner in Dragon Ball, we're willing to bet we know the real answer there. In later versions of the game, these rice balls were replaced with burgers. Goku and his grandpa also use an attack called Janken several times throughout Dragon Ball. This is an attack that incorporates a game of rock, paper, scissors to first confuse the enemy, and then strikes when they least expect it. Alex Kidd's boss battles play out in a surprisingly similar fashion. Instead of dialing up mechanics of regular stages like most other games, boss challenges are boiled down to a game of rock, paper, scissors, known in Miracle World as, wait for it, Janken. Hayashida recalled playtester reactions to this design decision, the majority of which were outraged that all progress could be lost in a game of chance. Despite all the negative feedback, he still refused to scrap it. When asked what a remake of Alex Kidd would look like, Hayashida shared his wish for something more along the lines of Shaolin Soccer, particularly telling considering the influence of Dragon Ball is present through the entirety of director Stephen Chow's work. Nevertheless, despite Hayashida's clear passion for a Dragon Ball project, the license would later go to Bandai, leaving Alex Kidd and Dragon Ball fans alike to wonder what might have been if the team hadn't been forced to refocus their efforts. And now it's time for this episode's random piece of trivia. Today it will be slightly less random and we'll be sticking with Sega Master System, but we'll be taking a turn away from anime to talk about the Smurfs. The elusive Master System title we're talking about is called Les Schtroumpfs Autour du Monde, otherwise known as The Smurfs Travel the World, or simply Smurfs 2, based on the Franco-Belgian property of the same name. While it was released on a variety of platforms between 1995 and 1996, later versions of the game would drastically differ in sound, animation, and gameplay design. The Master System's version was first discovered years later in March 2000 by Finnish collector Mikko Heinonen while on holiday in the Czech Republic. Heinonen would reach out to fellow collectors online who immediately assessed its worth as a super rare title, spurring him on to ask friends and family to keep an eye out for it while they were also in the country. In his final visit to Prague in 2002, he found no other copies, though a handful of other collectors would continue to uncover the title in Germany, France, and Italy years later. It's difficult to say how many copies of Smurfs 2 exist, but Heinonen remains confident that most copies circulating passed through his hands, giving a rough estimate of around 20 to 30 known to collectors. This scarcity means that copies of the game vary between $180 and $360 when sold, depending on the condition. Heinonen and his brother would go on to become part of the team making up Pelekonnepionit, a digital heritage preservation project that culminated in the opening of the Finnish Museum of Games in January 2017. Smurfs 2 is widely regarded to be the last commercial Master System game released in Europe, though considering its strange and sudden discovery, who knows if obscure titles could be lurking in undiscovered or forgotten places across the globe. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for Daz for waiting outside while I do this voiceover. You know what, let's just thank everyone. Everybody, thank you everybody.